Hi, I'm Gretchen,
And I'm Becca.
and we're two curious ladies on an adventure to learn more about cooking, cannabis.
And the fine art of gluttony. Join us every 10 days or so as we get high and make our way through a recipe.
Step inside and let the consumption begin.
Hello, Gretchen.
Hello, Becca. How are you today?
I'm so good. I'm so excited. We are back in our France the Cookbook groove and mindset. I am really looking forward to digging in some more. We hinted at it last time that we're getting into a little bit of her sauces section. And in particular, we're going to make a tomato sauce, which we're excited to compare against Marcella. In the meantime, though, what are you smoking over there, Gretchen?
I am having a Jeter infused joint, one of my favorites, but a different one this time. This is Tropicana Cookies. So it has a nice continuation of our last podcast because that was a hybrid of this strain as well as I forget what the other thing was, black cherry cookies or something. This is a sativa leaning hybrid with more caryophyllene, limonene, and what was the last one? Humulene?
Tasty.
Yeah, it is quite earthy though. Kind of grassy, hoppy kind of thing.
Fun,
What
like a beer.
yeah, like a beer. What are you enjoying?
I am enjoying some of one of our favorite flowers that we both got to experience when Gretchen was here in Las Vegas. Anyway, it's so tasty. It's a terpinolene dominant terpene profile with awesomine being next, and then B myrcene being the last one, and it is about 24% THC. I'm feeling really mellow. I don't often get terpinolene as the dominant terpene, but I'm feeling like maybe it has the most muscle relaxing benefits on me. I don't
Hmm,
know. Or calming, something.
something.
I'm trying to seek out
Something
a
good.
little more with the terpinolene. It's fun. I'm enjoying it, but it's called Poison Peaches, which is fun against your Tropicana cookies. So we're kind of in line there again with our tropical fruitiness. Last time we had our supers in line, and this
Yeah.
time it's tropical fruities. So we are clearly in a good space to head into our chats today. Like we said, we're continuing France the Cookbook, or Je suis cuisinier by Ginette Mathiot, or Jenny, as we are fondly calling our good friend, author of the France the Cookbook. But we are going to dig into her tomato sauce. Again, a very simple recipe, just kind of straightforward. I'm super excited to compare it to Marcella, which is probably my go-to tomato sauce of all time, especially because people know I don't like tomatoes or I mean, I don't like onions that much. So I
Right.
love just plopping those whole onions out of
Whole.
there. Yeah. What's your go-to tomato sauce, Gretchen?
Well, I generally make something that's a combination of you put some onion in there, garlic, and oregano, something vaguely Marcella-esque, but not as much of a pureed sauce. It's a more chunky sauce for a tomato. Not as much butter,
Sure.
but now
Yeah,
butter.
that's a hearty 4 tablespoons. I remember being surprised. And one person I shared the recipe with, I was like, it's a lot of butter. And they were like, well, you need fat. And I was like, oh, I feel so much better all of a sudden. I just justify with everything as you need fat.
No, it's very important for your brain to
No,
have a good amount of fat.
it is.
So,
Yeah, it's true. Good fats for sure. We are digging into France the Cookbook and having a blast. For today, because our focus is tomato sauce, we're going to jump around a little bit of her sauces section, but just kind of set the stage for what are a few common bases for sauces and maybe some French words or terminology that you've heard, but maybe don't have a full appreciation of. I'm going to read a little bit, and Gretchen's going to help fill in with some context when I have questions or when she has helpful guidance. So we're going to kick it off on page 40 of our France the Cookbook, and this is the sauces section. There are many sauces in French cuisine, and they can be categorized according to the preparation method. They can coat or surround the dish they accompany, or can be served separately in a sauce boat. Sauces are usually highly flavored and are often rich in fat. However, with careful adjustment, some sauces can be included in a healthy diet to help add variety. There are so many sauces that the flavor and appearance of the dishes they are served with can take on infinite variation. Depending on what is available and the number of guests they are entertaining, French cooks judiciously adapt existing sauce recipes and create new ones when necessary. For roux-based sauces, which we'll go into, homemade beef or veal stock is best, but good quality store-bought liquid stock or stock powder can be substituted. The recipes in this chapter yield around 2 cups sauce, which is normal enough for 6 people. So again, she's always back to the 6 people.
Six people all the time.
Always.
She's assuming everybody has 4 kids.
Or 2 kids and entertaining 2 people every night or
Right.
something. Like, probably James and I eat about 3 servings each combined. We probably eat like 3 servings of the recommended proportion guidance.
Mm.
So if we were making 6, that would be plenty for leftovers the
Yeah.
next day. In general, it's very interesting that all of her recipes are 4-6.
For 6 people, yes. That is kind of key, is if you had a 4-person family and you were cooking for your evening meal and then you had leftovers the next day for lunch, then that seems about right.
She did say in the beginning that a lot of French cooking is utilizing leftovers too, and maybe even not just utilization in terms of reusing, but just, eating the next day. Yeah.
Probably that has more to do with it, is that if you make enough for 6, that can feed 2 people for 3 days or 4 people for 1 day and another 2 people the next. So yeah, makes sense.
She also mentioned that this was a book for an early bride or someone who was kind of starting to entertain. We're going to dig into some common sauces, some words you've probably heard, and like I said, Gretchen's going to add extra context as needed. The first one here in her sauces section is jus, and we kick it off with jus from roast meat. During basting, the fat slides over the roast and gradually accumulates the savory matter and proteins adhering to it. This mixture forms the jus, or natural juices of the roast. From braised meat, the gravy that forms naturally when meat is braised comes from the juices extracted from the meat by the application of heat. The more flavor there is in the juices, the less the meat will retain its own flavor. However, if the cooking process is long enough, the meat takes on the flavor of the juices in which it is braised, and the flavors mingle. Vegetables can also produce delicious juices.
Delicious juices?
Delicious juices.
Sorry. It's like, oh, that would have been so good if you just said it.
I know. Ooh, that was a produce delicious juices is like real there.
That also might be merch. Produce delicious juices.
I know, right? Okay, so from jus, we move on to thickened sauces. When a sauce lacks body or smoothness, it can be improved by adding an ingredient to thicken it. Botox. I'm just kidding. Some starchy ingredients, such as flour, potato, or rice flour, or breadcrumbs, simply give the sauce body. Others, such as cream, egg yolks, butter, or blood also improve the flavor. I did not read through that part before I said it out loud. I
Just
was
now?
not prepared for the blood as a thickener.
That is a protein thickener, my friend.
That's pretty common.
It would have been way common in earlier stages of human
Sure.
evolution.
As you're
But,
like catching a whole animal and butchering it and
right.
taking the blood and stuff. Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah.
We don't all have blood, like that's just not, we're not all running out to get blood from oh, well, like that hit me in a funny way. Like where
Even
I'd throw
Gretchen
up.
reacted. Yeah, that's big. That's big that Gretchen had a hard time with that. I've never seen Gretchen have a hard time with any food I've mentioned except for some seafoods.
Well, I just sort of pictured a jar of blood
Yeah. A
because I'm like,
worm.
you'd have to like go to the store. I don't know why. It's just very disturbing to me to be like, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
to the store and get some blood. Oh, that is just not
BRB.
a that is not a sentence anyone should utter ever. But protein thickening, yes.
Okay, surprised us both. Moving on. Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Breaking it down. Thickening based on starch. Mix the starch, flour, potato, rice flour, or cornstarch in a small quantity of cold liquid and pour into the boiling sauce, stirring constantly. Let boil for a few minutes. And it is a simple procedure, but should be done with care, she notes.
She does note. Yes. She does note where your main pitfall is going to be, although this one's pretty general that just says it's a simple procedure but should be done with care. If you're not careful, just sieve your sauce. It'll be fine.
Mm. So we've got thickenings based on starches. We also have thickenings based on protein, which again is blood or egg yolks. This is going to be a slow add to a hot sauce. I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to keep moving. You can thicken sauces in a couple of ways. Based on starch, based on protein, and the last one here is based on fat, which you want to carefully add. And this forms an emulsion, which as you have listened to our tomb episodes, you know Gretchen has talked about what an emulsion is. But here, fats carefully added to a liquid form an emulsion, which gives the sauce flavor and consistency. So this can be butter or cream. You don't want to boil because boiling destroys the emulsion and spoils the sauce's delicate flavor. Yes. Moving on to a roux sauce, which is important today. We are going to make something called a blonde roux for our tomato sauce. In general, though, a roux is a sauce made with flour cooked in fat, usually butter, then made into a paste by adding a hot liquid. Depending on how long the flour is cooked, the color and flavor of the sauce will be more or less pronounced. Roux can be white, blonde, or brown. They can be mixed with a wide variety of liquids such as water, milk, stock, wine, or the liquid in which the dishes with which they are to be served have been cooked.
It's just a really awkward phrasing.
It's like add the meat sauce. My mom would make biscuits and gravy a lot, so she'd make
Oh,
like sausage or bacon and then use
yes.
that to make the gravy. And so for me, that's what a roux is like biscuits and
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes. But I can't believe I hadn't thought of that as an example of a roux-based sauce where you're making your roux with the animal fat that you're using, and it's coating the outside of your, because I normally would sprinkle it in over the cooked sausage and then stir
Mhm.
that around and let it brown up just a little bit. So I'm kind of going
You
for like
mean
a
pour the
golden roux.
flour? You mean pour the flour in when you're still cooking the sausage?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Once the sausage has started to cook and slightly brown on the outside, then I add my flour onto the sausage and mix it in really well. So there's a coating on the outside of the meat. You get it some that's kind of coating the pan a little bit. And then when you add your cream or milk or whatever or if you're not using either of those things, your stock of some sort to your meat of choice there, you have a sauce. So yes, that is
Hmm.
a roux. That is a very good example of a roux.
Yeah. So I do get the fat part. I do get the protein part based on like when we've made things by adding egg yolks or I mean, the only other example they have is blood, so egg yolks is what I'm gonna say.
Right.
And we've definitely added starch to things to thicken them. So moving on with roux here, the principle is the same for all types of roux. Put the butter in a pan and melt it without letting it change color if making a white roux. Add the flour. Cook, stirring with a wooden spoon until the mixture becomes frothy. Allow the flour to cook until it turns pale brown for a blonde roux or brown for a brown roux. Once the flour is cooked to the right stage, gradually pour in the hot liquid, stirring briskly and steadily over fairly high heat. However, do not let a brown roux get too dark because the resulting sauce will be too brown and have a bitter, acrid taste.
I'm going to point out there is an exception to this in Creole cooking, I believe. Like
Where you overcook the
jambalaya,
roux a bit.
you actually intentionally go for a black or like dark brown roux.
Mm.
And actually, like a black roux is just a dark roux. Yeah, I'm not sure if the jambalaya is exactly the right dish I'm thinking of, but I
But there
made,
are iterations of this where like you want to take it a little too far.
right, I made pork grillades a couple weeks ago, and you make a brown roux for that.
Mm,
And that's part of your sauce coloring as well as a flavoring agent.
sure. Yeah, almost a nutty smokiness kind of.
Exactly.
Sure. So moving on to emulsified sauces here, which we've mentioned in several episodes
Other,
of the past, but
yeah.
emulsified sauces are unstable, delicate preparations, maybe not tomb, but in which an ingredient is vigorously stirred in contact with a liquid, forms fine droplets in suspension, and becomes thick and smooth in appearance. The substance to be emulsified is usually a fat, such as a cream, butter, or oil. The liquid may be oil, water, or vinegar. Nowadays, the most familiar of these sauces are vinaigrette and mayonnaise. Béarnaise sauce and hollandaise sauce are also widely used. To make an emulsified sauce, beat the fat steadily, slowly adding the liquid. It may be either cold or hot, but it must be kept at an even temperature. If the emulsion separates or breaks, as we say now,
Hmm.
it is often because the heat has not been evenly distributed. Making an emulsified sauce always requires care.
Yeah. No shit.
For sure. Yeah.
Except
Well
two.
understood. Yeah. Okay, coulis, reduction, and stocks. There's a wide range of preparations, such as coulis, reduction, and stocks, or fumettes. Is that the right pronunciation?
Fumet.
Fumettes? Fumettes, which form the basis of many sauces and can be added to improve their color and flavor. They generally consist of a concentration of the flavors of ingredients such as mushrooms, shellfish, or herbs. So it's basically so coulis reduction stock, it's just putting a bunch of things in a pot and boiling it down,
Yeah, for the most part. You could
kinda.
also make uncooked coulis. Really, coulis to me is any like pureed sauce based on a fruit or vegetable.
Okay. Like
But
what's an example of a coulis then?
I'm sorry, you're gonna understand why I'm laughing when I tell you what I'm going to say, because I can't not say it. A blueberry coulis. It's an example of a coulis. In the early 2000s, I feel like coulis was super popular. We had an assortment of coulis that we did at the restaurant I worked at in culinary school. So we always had strawberry coulis, peach coulis, and I mean, literally, we just warmed the fruit up and pureed it, and then you strain it so that it's saucy and there's no
Yeah.
extra chunks. And that's a coulis. It's very basic. Those were always just fruit, a little bit of water, and some sugar, and you puree it together and cook it.
Like put it on a pancake or something.
Right.
Okay. So it's like a reduced fruit blended and sieved.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like well pureed jam.
thinner.
but thinner. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got thickened emulsified sauces. We have coulis reductions and stocks that are thinner, and we've got roux, which is pretty thick with its flour addition.
Yes. Yes.
At the umbrella level there, we've got thickened sauces, and everything we've been talking about comprises a thickened sauce. Sometimes part of those thickened sauces have a jus, which is the liquid from the meat you're cooking.
Yes.
Whew, I think that makes sense. What we're going to do now is talk a little bit about some particular sauces, things that I've heard the name for, but have not actually made or really experienced on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, Gretchen, being a chef and going to culinary school, has a total different appreciation for this. So we're going to find a middle ground here, and we're going to talk through some of these common sauces. Then we're going to get into our tomato sauce eventually. I promise. Bear with us. Basic preparations for sauces. If you're following along with the cookbook, this is page 43, where we're going to start off with the Béarnaise essence. This flavoring essence forms the basis of Béarnaise sauce and the many other sauces derived from it. So a very common base sauce. It keeps very well in the refrigerator. I'll read the ingredients in a second, but what you do is put all of the ingredients in a large pan, bring to a simmer, allow the liquid to evaporate gently over low heat for about 2 hours. So this is a slow and steady thing, or until reduced in volume by about 3/4. Strain and discard the solids. Beautiful thin sauce, no solids in it. Store the liquid in an airtight container in the refrigerator. So this sauce is 4 cups of white wine vinegar, 1.5 cups dry white wine, 1 pound, 2 ounces of onions chopped, 13 shallots chopped,
But
1 large handful of tarragon chopped, and pepper.
it's not 13 shallots.
Sorry, 13 ounces of shallots. Thank you.
Still a
This
fuck
is a
ton of
lot of sauce.
shallots.
Yeah. It's a lot of onions and shallots. For me, I would be like, I don't know if this is my bag. But also, it could be delicious on a fish or on vegetables or whatever. Sometimes you need all that sweetness of the onion and shallot and stuff.
I've never heard of this before. This was a
What?
this is not actually a thing that I've ever heard of.
What? Tell me more.
There is a term for a preparation that I can't remember the name of it right now, where you put your shallots, so it's a shallots and peppercorns, and you just saute those lightly. Then you add wine or vinegar or something along that line to the shallots and peppercorns, and then let that cook out until it's almost dry. And there's a name for this, and I cannot remember what it is for the life of me. It is driving me nuts. I'll remember it in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'll explode out of you all of a sudden randomly.
Right. So this just seems like a huge batch of that with white wine included and then straight onions as well. The inclusion of tarragon in the first part versus just adding it at the end, which is how I've mostly made Béarnaise sauce, is adding the tarragon in at the end of cooking. So this is so not what I was thinking of. Oh, what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit of something, not 2 cups worth of this huge preparation.
4 cups of vinegar. This is a serious sauce, but it does reduce by 3/4. So you do
Right.
only end up with like a cup or something.
2 cups.
Preparation time 20 minutes. Jenny. Really? Jenny. I mean, maybe
Well,
prep time 20 minutes, but cooking time. She says 2 hours. That's fair. Okay, 2 hours.
yeah, the cooking time is 2 hours. So she does give you, that's a reasonable thing because you're not going to have to spend a lot of time chopping your onions super fine. Plus, a pound sounds like a lot, but it's really 2 to 3 onions is a pound. So
Sure.
it's
Sure.
not outrageous. And you're just looking for a rough chop. So it's not gonna, you're not having to slice them or make them very neat or anything like that. So I can buy a 10-minute time period of being able to get this on the oven.
Yeah, it's very few ingredients. It's super quick. Surprise to Gretchen, but makes sense with the shallots and the onions and the vinegar and wine as kind of a pretty common base for a lot of sauces that we see out in the world.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to a mirepoix, which many people, again, have probably seen, and maybe a lot of you understand, but maybe some of you don't. So I'm here for the some of you who don't, and that is...
And I'm here to point out why a lot of chefs would argue about what mirepoix is when we're done reading this.
Oh, I love it.
So,
I love the double layer. Okay. A mirepoix is, according to Ginette, 3.5 tablespoons butter, 3.5 ounces carrots diced, 1 teaspoon diced shallot, 1¾ ounces onion diced, 3.5 ounces lean raw ham diced, one handful of thyme finely chopped, 1 handful of flat leaf parsley finely chopped, 1 bay leaf. Prep time 15 minutes, cook time 5 minutes, makes 9 ounces or 6 servings. What you're doing with this, with those ingredients, is melt the butter in a skillet over medium heat and pan fry the vegetables and ham gently for about 10 minutes or until softened. Remove from the heat and stir in the herbs used to add flavor to a wide range of sauces. I didn't know ham was in mirepoix as its like original iteration.
No, that's why I was going to say, I don't think you would find a chef out there today that would say ham is a basic part of mirepoix.
It's like just onions, carrots, celery now, kind of, right?
Right. Shallot, yeah, that's fine. It's an onion relative. Sure, you want to layer your onions, I'm all for that. But yeah, carrots, onion, celery is your mirepoix. You would have a lot of people arguing with you on, like, is this a mirepoix? Like, it is. But what about all the people that don't eat ham?
Well, I have to ask, though, if she's writing down classic French recipes and we know mirepoix as a French recipe, is this an original version and what we know now is very edited down?
Well, shit, Becca, I don't know the answer to that, and that hadn't occurred to me.
Questions, questions, questions! Let's move on before we have to answer anything.
Yeah.
She talks about fish glaze, meat jelly, or aspic. I'm not going to ask about what that is because I don't want to know about that meat stuff. There's mushroom stocks, there's fish stocks, there's roast meat jus, which we talked about. And then there is something called the poor man sauce, which Gretchen and I both honed in on the first time we did a pass through this book. The poor man sauce, or sauce sans corps gras pauvre homme. That's
pauvre homme, yes.
Pauvre homme.
It's a weird word. Yeah, poor is a weird word in French.
Okay, thank you. So poor man sauce is 3 shallots. We love the shallots in the sauce section. It is just shallot heavy here. 3 shallots chopped, 1 large handful of flat leaf parsley chopped, 1 bouquet garni. I will ask Gretchen about that in a second. Generous 2 cups pork or game stock, 1 tablespoon white wine vinegar or lemon juice, and salt and pepper. Prep time 5 minutes, cook time 5 minutes, makes a generous 2 cups. Gretchen, what's bouquet garni?
There are a couple of different definitions. Our friend Ginette here, she likes the definition of it's a bundle of different herbs, usually of the thyme, rosemary, woody stem variety, maybe some stems of parsley, bundled together and dangled into your stock or whatever that you're putting together to flavor it. But there's also another definition for it that includes the same herbs, but then you're also wrapping in your celery and carrots together with maybe some leeks and your herbs and using that as a bouquet garni.
I'm picturing Bridget Jones when she's trying to make that sauce for her or that soup for her birthday dinner, and she wraps up the leeks in the blue. Yeah. Okay. She's maybe trying to make like a bouquet garni.
She was making a bouquet garni. Yes. I don't remember if that's what they called it.
No,
But
I think they didn't mention it, but that's what I'm picturing.
yes, exactly. That's exactly it.
Our recipe source is page 57 of France the Cookbook. We have talked about roux. Our tomato sauce uses a blonde roux, which we also did mention, but let's dig into what a blonde roux is. This is 3¼ tablespoons butter, 1/2 cup flour, a generous 2 cups stock or water, and salt and white pepper. If you were a longtime listener, you know Gretchen thinks white pepper is bullshit, but we think in this case it's probably for the color. This is prep time 10 minutes. We'll see. Cooking time 20 minutes. And it makes generous 2 cups. Melt that butter in a heavy pan over moderate heat. When it is hot, on the point of smoking, add the flour and cook, stirring with a wooden spoon, always a wooden spoon, until the roux is pale brown in color and still sandy in texture. Take the roux off the heat and gradually add the stock or water, stirring constantly to avoid lumps. Return to the heat and slowly bring to a boil, stirring all the time with your wooden spoon. Once boiling, reduce the heat to a simmer and cook gently for 2 minutes to cook out the taste of flour. Season to taste with salt and white pepper.
I like the dig. It
Yeah.
just tastes like poo poo to me. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Gretchen, now that we know what a blonde roux is, as that is a component of our tomato sauce, can you tell me what are the ingredients in our tomato sauce? And I'm going to think about it as it compares to Marcella's tomato sauce.
Okay, but let's stop because I feel like did we kind of skip over what roux is?
No, we
Or
read
not
it in
really?
the sauces section.
Okay, good. Because I just
Yeah.
wanted to make clear that while we are our blonde, when we refer to the blonde roux we're doing today, while she is calling this blonde roux the sauce, the blonde roux that we're talking about is the just the fat and flour component.
Yeah, just butter and flour for us.
Yes,
And
correct.
then
Okay.
yeah.
Our tomato sauce ingredients today include 1 pound, 10 ounces of tomatoes. We are actually using a canned tomato puree today because that cut off a few steps for us. The original recipe had that 1 pound, 10 ounces as quartered. Then 4 tablespoons of butter, 1/4 cup of flour, half a cup of vegetable stock, 1 carrot diced, 1 onion diced, 1 sprig of parsley chopped, 1 sprig of thyme chopped, 1 bay leaf, and salt and pepper. Put tomatoes in a pan with no oil or butter and cook for 5 minutes over moderate heat, stirring from time to time. Make a puree by pushing them through a strainer. Prepare a blonde roux with 2 heaping tablespoons of butter and flour. Stir in the strained tomato pulp, add the stock, carrot, onion, parsley, thyme, bay leaf, salt, and pepper, and let simmer for 30 minutes. Just before serving, stir in the remaining 2 tablespoons of butter.
Pretty similar to Marcella. Got the same amount of tomatoes, basically the same amount of butter, a little bit of a different prep method. Like Gretchen said, we skipped that whole quartering your fresh tomatoes and cooking them and then pureeing them, and we just bought pureed tomatoes because we took that editor to heart when she said modify some recipe.
Also, it's fucking winter. Garbage
Yeah,
tomatoes right now. No point in actually using fresh tomatoes at this time of year.
exactly. When we get into the kitchen, what are our steps then now that we know all the ingredients?
Starting with our butter in the pan, we're going to melt that and heat it to the point of smoking. Then we are going to sprinkle in our flour and stir that vigorously with a wooden spoon, as we keep hearing in this book. Cook until it's just kind of golden brown colors. At that point, we are going to add our tomatoes, and we're using our canned tomatoes. At the same time, we'll put in a stock, carrot, onion, parsley, thyme, bay leaf, salt, and pepper. Everything goes in all at once. And then we cook for 30 minutes and monte au beurre before serving.
We time travel. We tell you how delicious it is.
Yes, exactly.
Into the kitchen we go, where we are going to start off with our blonde roux. Like you said, heating our 2 tablespoons of butter and then adding our flour. So we're in the kitchen and we're going to start heating up our butter.
Yep.
Blonde roux, here we go.
Yes. We've not really done, well, we did the pâte à choux, didn't we? Which is vaguely related. Butter and flour
butter
situation on the stove.
But we haven't really made a roux otherwise. We did do flour into something that maybe the pot pie.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a lightly roux. Yeah, I think that was, we put the flour onto the veggies, didn't we?
Yeah, it was like a mirepoix. Haha.
Yeah.
Using the words we know today. The mirepoix that we added flour to before we put in the stock. I wonder what's the deal with the wooden spoon? Fanny Farmer always said wooden spoon, and Marcella mentioned wooden spoon sometimes. What's going on with the wooden spoon?
Fanny Farmer in particular, you wouldn't know what kind of metal your spoons were made out of.
Wooden spoons have always been around, so like the most consistent cooking tool or something.
Right, because she'd also be writing before like the modern age of all the silicone and all the new utensils. They're writing before plastic would be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when did plastic really become a thing? Like 50s, 1960s?
Something like that. I mean, I'm guessing, but
I think it just comes down to the metal and not knowing if your metal utensils are safe to put in your food. Or, at least to apply heat to. I'm getting distracted because my butter is
okay. Should we go with the flour?
Yeah, mine looks really ready.
Okay,
so I'm gonna go.
So sprinkle in, stirring constantly, sizzling noises.
Stirring noises. Okay, well, I did not so much sprinkle, but that's okay.
I know. I sprinkled like at first, and then it was a big clump.
It just fell out of the measuring cup. Yeah, I pressed it in too hard. I do love that smell, though. That butter and flour cooking smell.
Oh, good. And then we go with the puree pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, mine's a little light.
So a blonde roux still has a teeny bit of toastiness to it.
Yeah, you want some toastiness, but not browning. If that makes any sense.
No crispiness. Toastiness, but no crispiness.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking that I might be there. I've got some parts that are going a little darker. So.
Okay, you're gonna go with
I'm gonna go with my tomatoes, yeah, and everything else because it's all at the same time.
Okay.
I'm gonna rinse my container with my veggie stock here.
Okay.
Get all of my tomatoey goodness.
Going in with my carrots.
I needed a bigger pot.
Oh no.
It's okay. It fit barely.
Barely. I know you were like small, and I was like, small. I'm scared.
It's a 2-quart pot.
And it'll reduce.
Yeah, I got a lot of veggie in here.
I might add a little bit more tomato.
How dare you?
I know. It's just so thick. I don't love super thick.
Do we strain this or no?
No.
Oh, then I probably should chop my veggies up finer.
Oops. Salt and pepper now?
Yes. I need to put a lid on it.
No lid, right?
I might put a lid on mine.
Yeah, just because there's not a lot of liquid.
Right, yeah, it's very splattery, unfortunately. It's like...
I guess we'll time travel, and we will see our gluttoniers
in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, into the future we go.
It is the future.
We are future people. It is future Becca and future Gretchen, and we have thoughts about tomato sauce. Gretchen, tell me your thoughts.
I wanted to draw an immediate comparison to Marcella's because it was less sweet. It was a little more savory, whereas this French one with that inclusion of carrot had a real definite sweetness to it. But I think if you caramelize the carrots a little bit, it wouldn't be quite as sweet. I don't, I don't know how to put it.
Quite as sweet. Yeah, well said.
But I did think that as far as the texture of the sauce goes, it was more rich, and from that inclusion of the roux, and was very nice on some linguine. I really enjoyed it. We ate a lot of it. We ate it again. I forget on what kind of pasta, but it was very good, even a couple days later.
I agree. I'm with you on that right up front comparison against Marcella. Definitely sweeter. I also appreciated the fresh herbs though. That I helped balance that a lot for me. I loved that thyme that was in there
Hmm.
because that's one thing that Marcella doesn't have at all is any of that kind of like freshness. I mean the tomatoes and onions work and in the end as feeling kind of fresher, I guess, but like yeah, there wasn't that pop of herb, I guess, in Marcella, but
Yeah.
a few more steps than Marcella. For me, I prefer Marcella's lack of any sort of cut onion in the final product, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I don't know if I got my measurements wrong, but I ended up adding like double the amount of tomato puree. It was very, very thick for me right away.
Oh.
And so I ended up putting, yeah, I think almost double the amount. I had bought a kind of large jar of pureed tomatoes. I didn't know if maybe I overdid it on the roux, that made it too thick, or what. But for me,
Yeah.
it still ended up being really thick. But we had it with gnocchi, so it's kind of perfect. That
Yeah.
texture was like beautiful with the gnocchi actually, or that thickness, I guess I should say. But I loved it. I don't know, like I don't know if like it would be my go-to weeknight over Marcella just because of the Marcella one is like four steps. They're
Yeah.
super easy. You're done, you move on, you know? But if I wanted something, like if people were coming over, or I just wanted something a little bit more
Different.
fun, I guess you
Yeah.
could say, like I would do this again for sure. But I mean, I loved it 100%. I would absolutely recommend it and suggest it. And I thought it was really easy. And yeah, it just had a little bit more complexity to it than I was expecting.
Compared to the absolute bare bones simplicity of Marcella, I think this is also another good introduction into this book is that it's going to be a little bit more complicated than Marcella.
I think you're right. Or there's going to be a different intention with these recipes
Yeah.
than Marcella had. And yeah, we're just starting. It's going to be so fun to continue discovering Jenny's recipes. But we knew Marcella to be pretty straightforward, to be trying to capture the essence of Italian food and sort of distill down those recipes to be like translatable, to use her language terminologies. Ginette's approach is from the start more intentional to be prepared for six people. So more of an occasion behind it than just here's how to make a classic recipe.
Hmm. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
It's so
yeah.
exciting. I'm so excited. And then obviously we're digging into this on the Patreon, like in way more detail than you'll ever even imagine is possible, friends, because we edit ourselves for this. So we'll see what happens on the Patreon.
Woo! You can pay to hear us talk at length.
Even more gibberish. Give us money for silly.
For silly gibberish about food. Yes. Thank you. That's what we're here for.
That's us. Yep. Whoa, I'm pumped though. Here we go.
Here we
Another
go.
awesome lady chef that we are journeying with.
I guess that wraps everything up for this episode anyway. This
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. That's it. We're done.
Okay.
Our future lives call.
Like us on Instagram and Facebook and check out the website. There's stuff there. Some
Yeah,
stuff.
Gretchen's been working on it. Woohoo.
Maybe by the time this come out, it'll be up to date. Maybe. Yay! We shall see.
We never know. Oof, all right, off we go.
Off we go.